All right, at the end of the last recording, we discovered one flaw here. And by the way, this flaw can show up whenever you have formatted numbers in text boxes. So we formatted our coupon. For $4. So if I change that to 4, my logic right now that we have in record state doesn't recognize that 4 is the same as $4.00. Doesn't recognize that. So what I want to do is make it a little bit smarter. So anytime you have text boxes with formatted numbers like miles with commas in them, you take the commas out, all of a sudden it doesn't recognize that 1,000 with a comma is not the same as 1,000 without. If I leave the field, it'll format it and make it look the same, but the buttons will still be lit up because I'm not checking to see if anything's changed. Well, actually it might. No, think about it. That might, leaving the field might solve the problem. Because if I put a 4 in here and leave, the text changed event is going to occur, but I have to leave. I have to press tab to leave that field. I don't want to do that. I want the GUI to see as soon as I type one letter that 4 and $4 are exactly the same. I don't want to have to leave first. So how do I do that? I need to modify my record state method. And because right here it says just grab the coupon text, whatever it is. What I need to do is get some consistency here. Okay. I need some consistency. I wanted to always look at the values, and the way I get the consistency is to always look at them the same way. So my thought is the most consistent way is to format this for currency with 2 decimal places right here. I'm not saying I'm changing the text box. I'm not. But what I'm going to do is take what's in the text box, format it for currency, and concatenate that so that whenever I'm looking at the price, it's always got dollar signs and 2 decimal places on it, regardless of what the user types. So I could just say, take whatever's in that text for the coupon and format. Well, unfortunately, I can't format text. I can't two-string text because it's already text. So the first thing I have to do is parse this. This gets kind of annoying here, almost laughable. First I have to do is parse it. And so that's a decimal.parse of whatever's in there. But what's in there could have a dollar sign, right? Because the user is allowed to type a dollar sign. So I guess I better unformat that first. Do I have vtools available in here? Yeah, okay. vtools dot, didn't like that. Unformat what's in the text. Take out any dollar signs, if there happen to be any commas, junk like that, get rid of it. And turn it into a decimal. That's great, but what this doesn't do is allow for the dollar sign. So now what I have to do is take that whole thing. Now that it's a number, I can two-string it for currency. Oh my goodness. Yeah, a little convoluted, but take the text, unformat it, turn it into a number, and then format it into currency so that it always, at least in here, at least to Matt when he's processing this, always has a dollar sign, always has 2 decimal places. Uh-oh. Unless it's empty. Really? Yep. Let's do this. If it's not equal to the empty string, then do all this big ugly stuff. Otherwise, just leave it the empty string. And then down here, we're going to concatenate my formatted coupon. Because when it's the empty string, we can't unformat it. We've seen that before. So this says, started out as empty. Karen?
Oh, I just thought you'd have to set it equal, and the if statement set it equal.
Yep. Thank you. Good. Let's try it. Be brave. Okay, we're back to $4. If I wipe it out, it goes, oop, that's a change. And I'm just going to type 4. And it recognizes it. Said, no, you can't save this. Because it's the same as it was before. 4.0. Yeah, that's still the same. $4. Yep, that's still the same. $4.0. 1. 0. Wow. What a pain. But it can be done. If you're anal and you need it that way, it can be done. Nobody said magic was simple. But when it works, it's pretty cool. And again, I can change this entire record and then put it, if I put it all back again, and I've done this in the past, I don't think I'm going to take time for it here. I can put it all back again. The button turns off again. So pretty magical. So medium turns it back on, large, small, personal. I challenge you to break it. If time allows, format the coupon. Okay, I did that. To make the process more efficient, we won't bother checking for changes whenever we're displaying a new record. Now, this is kind of bizarre. What I discovered many years ago when I had problems with my program, I was trying to debug. But what happens when I say, take whatever's in the business class and change the date picker here? It causes a value changed event, right? Make sense? What happens when a value changes? We call Karen, who calls Trevor. Actually, we call Karen, who calls Matt, who calls Trevor. And then we come down to the next line, and what happens when I change the customer ID? It causes a changed event. So and all we're doing is filling in a new record here, and every single time we change one field, we call Karen, who calls Matt, who calls Trevor. I'm just displaying. Don't do that. We didn't see the difference, right? It just pops up. But if you ever have to debug this, you have to get through all those calls from Karen to those guys for every single field here. So here's my solution for that. At the beginning of this, I set a flag that I have yet to define. I will in a second, called displaying new record equals true. This is a Boolean flag. And initially, I think we'll set, I don't think we need to set it, just in case, we'll set it to true. So there's my flag. I need it in in a couple different places. So here in display record, when I start, I turn it on, and then at the end, when I'm done, I turn it off. And then in check record change, that's Karen. Okay, every time I call her every time something changes, I'm first going to say if I'm not displaying a new record. If I'm not displaying, if I'm not in the process of just filling in the form, that means that something else has happened. The user's changing things. But if I am displaying a new record, check record, or the enable buttons and the check record, all this stuff, nothing happens if I'm in the process of displaying a new record. And according to this, I need to add the variable, update it, and check record changed. Add to display record. Good. So let me prove this. Enable records, that's Trevor. Put a breakpoint in here. Karen calls Trevor. What I want to see is that this doesn't happen. Doesn't get called when I'm first changing records. Displaying new record equals true. Why am I in there? I'd have to have a displaying new record equals false. Let's see how many times we hit it. Once. That's not too bad. Change records. How many times? Once. Why is it once? Because I'm changing from the grid focused over to here. It just happens once though. It doesn't happen over and over and over again. Because if I hadn't done that, every time I touch this, every time I fill this, every time I do that, Karen gets called and calls all those guys. Now it's only happening once, and it's just a matter of changing from focus to one place to the other, and it's only happening once. And that's much more efficient. So that's a little tweak. Another thing we haven't tested. What happens if I do a search for XX? My delete button is still lit up. Really? New button, that makes sense, but this should say I'm not inserting a new record. Oh, I think I need to call enable buttons whenever I change grids. I missed that. It's right there. This enable buttons needs to happen regardless of whether or not I'm inserting a new record. Or happen regardless of whether or not there's a row. That's what's wrong. Okay. So regardless of whether or not there's a new row. So what happened is I turned everything off, right? I did XX, there's nothing in the grid. This if statement failed. So regardless, and I didn't put that in the right spot even, one more. Regardless of whether or not there's a new record, I need to enable buttons false. See if that works. Delete buttons trashed. Come back. Delete button comes back. Was it gone when my program first started? Yes. Why? That's not good. So I should be able to delete that, and I can't. I'll have to look into that. In the interest of time, I'm going to move on here. There's another issue. if I put the XX in here, I got all this stuff available to me, and I should not. If there's nothing in the grid, there should be nothing over here on this side. So what I want to do is hide all this stuff whenever there's nothing in the grid. How can I hide all that stuff? Well, I could write a function, another method, for Zach to do that says this, hide it, or this, show it. It's one way. One way to deal with it. A different way to deal with it is to put a panel around them, and then all I have to do is say hide the panel, show the panel, hide the panel, show the panel. Right? So I'm going to put a panel around them. I'm not going to use a group box, so I really don't want to label them. It's going to be kind of an invisible container. That's what the panel is. And I'm hoping if I surround everything just right, notice that my new button and my cancel button or my delete button are not part of the panel. I want them to be available. I want the new button to be available even if there's nothing in the grid. So I'm going to call this guy pan fields. And when I run the program, at least initially, it doesn't look any different. That's still a problem. It's bugging me, but I'm not going to stop the recording to fix it. Another thing I've done on other programs is put my delete and new buttons over here. And then try to line these guys up with them, and that way they're kind of more attached to the data. Add a new one, add a delete one. How you rearrange your form is up to you. Some of your forms are pretty ugly, but they work. So that's all I'm looking for. Beautiful forms is a different day. And maybe I just want to take this whole panel and pull it down a little bit so that the first field aligns with the first field there. Got a little extra gap. That's just aesthetics. We can leave that for some other day. But now when I run it, it looks the same. I can't see that border, but I now have accessible to me this entire panel that I can show and hide when this happens. All right, so where does that go? Create pan fields, update the tab order. Good plan. 0, 49. Ooh, not good. 0, the entire panel. And these should already be in order. And then this is now 1, 9, 1, 10. This can be 2 and 3. Okay. Go away. Did I say run? Okay, so now my tab order is good. Update grid select changed. Why? Because there is no current row, grid select change doesn't display a new record. We'll hide the input fields whenever there's no new record to display. So in grid select change, I'm here. If there is a row, display it. Else, so now I need to add an else here. Hide the panel. Pan fields dot visible, and notice I'm hiding it, not just disabling it. Disabling is another option, but then you still see this data. I'm going to hide it. Visible equals false. And up here I have to remember to turn them back on again, or sometimes they don't come back. Pan fields dot visible equals true. Let's try that. Something's wrong. For some reason it's like it doesn't select this first row in the grid. Button delete. That's enabled buttons. Where's my load grid? Display the first cell. I think it's the inserting record maybe it's causing my trouble. If I'm not inserting a record, so I should be, what did I initialize inserting record to? Let's initialize that. Nope. If the grid select current row is not equal to null, it's not, then do this stuff.
Then after that, after it does it, you have enable buttons false.
Yeah.
So even after.
But what's enable buttons got to do? That's just hiding the, that's just disabling the save button, but this should be turning on the panel. It shouldn't be bringing the panel back to life. Good thought, but I don't think that's the problem. Does all this stuff, sets the panel visible equal to true.
Should that go inside the try?
Should what go inside the try? This one? It just did it, okay. If there's bad data, it's still gonna make them, it's gonna show the data. Actually, it's gonna show the old record and say I can't get the new one. So no, I don't think the try makes a difference here. I'm gonna run, and I've hit it again. Continue, hit it again. And that time it said it is an empty row. The current row is null. Why is the current row null? Load the grid as last. Something's wrong with my form load. I think if I click, it's going to come back. Yes, it did. Just like my buttons are now lit up the way. There's something wrong with my form load. For some reason, it's sensing that there's no row selected in that grid. I'll have to try to figure out what's causing that, and I'll be sure to tell you on Thursday what I discovered. Now here's our test. If I put an XX in here to search, it goes away. As soon as I bring it back, it comes back. But there's a problem. I'm looking for customer number or customer doesn't exist. Well, let's add him then. Whoops. So whenever I say new, I need to turn the grid on, because if they're saying new, it doesn't matter if the fields are on or off. Turn them on. When the user says new, turn them on. Went away, new. Turned them on, got my new record in there. What happens if I hit cancel? Cool. So except for the form load part that I will figure out, that's working okay. I must have one line someplace goofy, but the rest of it's working, so let's keep plowing along here. So we hide the details. Okay, next thing I want to do is display the save status, and we're going to finish this. So that's the good news. We're going to finish this so you can start part 6. That's the bad news. But the other good news is we're going to start Unit 5 Crystal Reports on Thursday, work a couple hours on that lab, and then finish it up on Tuesday, which still gives you a little more than a week to do the Crystal Reports assignment. And I encouraged you, I think, last week to work together on that Crystal Reports assignment. So the next thing I want to do is get rid of my message box saying the save is complete. On most programs today, when I hit save here, it doesn't tell me it's saved it just doesn't. But I also don't like the fact that I'm not getting any feedback from Visual Studio. So in my program, I want to give feedback, but I don't want this intrusive message box that comes up. What I'm going to do instead is display a message across the bottom of my screen in a status bar. So I'm going to show you how to create one of those. I'm going to create it. I'm going to add a timer as well because I want the message to go away after a while. So first things first, how do I add a status bar? I'm going to make a little more room. Pull my pizza up so that there's room for a status bar underneath. Go to the toolbox, and the status bar is under the menus and all those kinds of things. So here's my status strip, goes down along the bottom. Okay. Automatically adds one across the bottom. It doesn't have anything attached to it. I can put all kinds of little boxes down here. You see them in most programs. Notice it's got one of these and it's got one of those, and there's a message over here. And in Microsoft Word, it can show you about 8 different things in your status bar, what section, what inches on the document, all those things can go into a status bar. So we're going to have lots of different pieces, parts in my status bar. I'm going to add one. I think this is where I do it. There we go. I can add a label or a progress bar or a drop down or some kind of buttons. Normally I use a label. So I'm going to add a label. And now it has a name. That's a pretty lame name. Here's another, this message, this status bar itself. I don't think I need it. Add status message. Panel message. That's a label. All right, let's read the instructions. One annoying feature, use the status bar. After 5 seconds, we'll remove it. When we're at it, we'll add a message whenever new, so it doesn't tell me how to do it, so I guess I'm supposed to remember how. Okay, I'm going to change the name of this guy to STA for status. Message. I don't think I need that panel. I'm just going to go with the STA. And it already has some text in it. I'm going to wipe that out. But here's the kick. It has the ability to stretch. When you build these panels, you can build panel, 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 panel. And on the last one, you can tell it to stretch to fill to the end of the panel so you don't have this empty space out there. That's where this gray stuff is coming from. Here, I'm going to tell my single status panel here to go ahead and stretch. Set to true. Why is it set to true? Set to true. Why didn't it stretch? Maybe it will when it runs. No. This is a label. I did something wrong. Add TMR, add a status bar, add a panel. It's not stretch, it's spring. That's what it says right there. There we go. Now my text message is in there, and this is just regular text. I can do whatever I want. I can put whatever text I want in there. I can change its font. I can change its color. I can do whatever I want to it. So here's what I want to do first. Whenever we hit save, instead of the message box now, I don't want the message box anymore. I'm going to change the status message text. And let's watch that do its stuff. So initially I've got the status bar down here. It's got no text. But if I create a record and change it and save it, really? I might have named the wrong piece. What's your name? Yeah, I named the wrong piece. And now I'm going into this one here and changing its name to STA message. Try again. What? It's just not my day. That is STA message. It has text, which is empty. In my form code, status barred. Oh, it changed it on me. When I renamed it in my properties, it automatically changed it in my code, did a name everywhere. Please do it right this time. Thank goodness. And now it sits there, it says save successful, and I can do all kinds of stuff like change records, and it doesn't go away. I want it to go away. And what I saw in one program once that impressed me is it came up, kind of sat in the title bar or wherever they put it, and then after a little while, 3, 4, 5 seconds, it went away. So to make it go away automatically, remember way back to programming logic beginning and dancing Snoopies and welcome screens that go away after 5 seconds, timer. So I need to add a timer, maybe. Let's go to the design mode, that'll help. And I want it to go off after 5 seconds. Remember, it's measured in thousandths. And now I want to write code for this. This method erases the contents of the status bar after the designated amount of time. Put that where it belongs. TMR status, collapse please, TMR. What do I want to do? Just erase it. STA message.text equals the empty string. But if I do that, what happens 5 seconds later?
It's back on.
No, it does not, but it erases it again. And what happens 5 seconds later? It erases it. It's erased. Why am I continuing to erase it? So we can do this. TMR status.enabled equals false. Turn off the timer. What if we're turning the timer off? We better turn it on someplace. That's in button save. How did this any guy get here? Okay, and here's my button save. As I'm displaying the message, also turn on the timer. So I hit save, turns on the timer, displays the message, 5 seconds later, goes away. Pretty good, huh? Okay, so that's cool. Another little final touch. Let's put a message down there when we're adding a new record. So that's button new. And we could say adding new order, adding new maintenance record. That's nice and generic. But when should that go away? After 5 seconds? While I'm adding, right? So at what point do I stop adding? When I save, what happens when I save? It changes the message, makes it saving, so that goes away automatically. But there's one other way to stop adding.
Cancel.
Canceling. And I don't think I need to mess with the timer there. Oh, I remember what it was. There is one way we can break this. First of all, let's make sure it works. So I want to do a new record. Good. I'm not going to fill the whole thing in. Okay. Better test it. No cheating. That's all I need, right? Save. And it says save successful. Now the timer should be running. Okay. There's one way we can confuse this guy. If I hit save new, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh. How do you know these things? You don't. You just write the code and say, oh, cool, my message came up. Oh, cool, it went away when I canceled. But if you immediately hit a new than your save message, you don't catch that until you do it once. And how likely is it somebody's going to hit save new? I got a whole stack of records here. Enter, 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 save, new. Save, new. Say, and then the message disappears. You go, what happened to my new message? So what we also have to do here when we turn that off is make sure that the timer is disabled or enabled, which do I want? But no, it's new that has to do this. Disable the timer. See the kind of comments I'm starting to put? Why are you turning the timer off? All you did was say new. Give yourself a comment. Otherwise, I guarantee you 3 months from now, you're going to look at that and go, that's stupid, erase it. And then 2 days later, somebody will go, how come the message keeps disappearing when I do new? And you go, whoops. Save new. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Stays forever. Subtle. Update button cancel. Update button new. There it is. Turn off the timer. Test. Almost done. Finishing the application. What I want to do on form closing. Whoa. I just changed a bunch of stuff. Said done. Close. Whoops. Just lost that. So on form closing, the last thing I want to do I have a form closing method already? I don't think so. Form load. Click in the middle of nowhere, add a closing event. Remember, this happens, doesn't matter how you close the form. I don't have an exit button anymore, it's going away. But I can still have the X, I can do Alt F4, there's a couple other ways you can close the form. I don't want that to happen if there's stuff that needs to be saved. Form closing goes before form load. Okay, and how do I know if I need to save? I think I gave you a clue last time, but your brains were dead. How do I know if I have unsaved changes? How did I know before? I compared the org record to the record now, right? Could do that. Here's an easier way. Have I saved those changes? No. How do you know? What?
If the save button's visible.
Save button's lit up. If the save button's lit up, it's only lit up when there are unsaved changes because we wrote all this fancy code to say even if you put it back. So all I have to ask here is if btn save dot enabled, and yes, I could use cancel. That's a true false, right? It either is or it isn't. If it is enabled, then I'm going to throw up a message box. And I'm not asking the user if they want to save. Not in this program because there's databases involved, there may be validation involved, etc. I'm making them go back. It's the validation that can really cause trouble. You must save or cancel changes before closing the form. They have to do one or the other. They cannot get out with unsaved changes. Sounds annoying, but most of my users are very comfortable with that. This one's just got an OK button. Because they don't have any choice. And I do the e.cancel equals true to make them stay. So that worked. I'm still here. If I save, and let's double check, then I can leave. Awesome user experience. Database successful. Now you're looking at what except for the problem with load, I don't know what's going on there. I'll try to figure it out and tell it to you on Thursday, or at least modify the program so that the saved version up on OneDrive has the fix in it once I figure out what it is. I haven't asked if you have any questions because we don't have time. So no time. If you have questions, bring them to me. Due date for 6. When's 5 due? Friday? Next Friday, just so you know, is 5 days from the end of the semester. That's next Friday. Okay. I can set the due date there, or we can just say, forget it, make it Wednesday. You can still turn it in early. I agree with you. I wouldn't save it until, but if bad things happen, you can push it. So you want me to push it, or you want to have a little flexibility there? Say Friday or Wednesday. Friday? Wednesday? 1-0. Okay, be that way. The rest of you don't care. Wednesday it is. And that's when your Crystal Reports assignment will be due as well. And I did recommend that you work on that together. The end of the semester is Wednesday. All right, I'm cutting you a little more slack there as well. You may submit this on the last day of class instead of on so there's the 13th, instead of on the last day of this class. And that is a drop dead midnight. Do not test me on that one. Midnight of the 13th, everything, updates and whatever is due. I'm pushing you to the end of the semester here. If you want updates to your programs, I gotta have them as quick as you can get them to me, and I'll turn them around as quick as I can. But anything I get, let's go back to the calendar there. Anything I get on the 11th or the 12th, I'll try. But man, there ain't many hours left in the day for me when everything is done to do those grading. I will try to get them graded so you can maybe do an update before Wednesday. Anything you turn in by the 8th, I'll get it graded that weekend and you'll have a shot at an update. Anything that comes after, or that, let's make it maybe the 10th if it's not midnight. If you turn it in on Sunday, I will probably grade it on Sunday. You'll get it right back and you'll get a chance for updates. Anything after that, I can't promise you anything.
When do you want NQA cards?
NQA cards, if they have value, meaning you're not at already 105%, don't give me your NQA cards. I'm just going to throw them away. If they improve your grade, I need them by the 13th. And how would you know? I guess you wouldn't know, right? If you're turning stuff in on the 13th, then you turn it in. But if you already got everything done and you got your A, then keep your NQA cards as a souvenir from my class. They might have value someday. Who knows? Other questions? All right. Got a question?
Can I see your
Yeah.
select change?
Yep. It may not be 100% correct, but
No, I moved enable buttons calls right below your station.
yeah, you might be off by a line.
The gas.
It's between the end if and the end if.
Gas program.
No, I put it
That's what I got.
right after the null. Or if grid select current role is not null,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you put it up there.
turns it off.
That's because I just.
Yes.
If you have any
That's where I
questions,
put it.
text me or-
This is where enable buttons is.
Pretty good.
And then it searched it and then it turns it off after nothing's on it.
So you're saying it works
I'm gonna try to hammer that.
I don't know.
better than mine? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
The validation isn't that bad now. Like once I sat down with somebody who was like, oh,
So
do
you
guys
put
do
it
this,
here.
do this? And I was like, oh, well,
Correct?
There's a
why did I get such bad score?
on number 5, there's a few that I've had my validation working, or the validation's been working.
Right.
And then when you go and change, you add new, and you twist this, and you
Because it
turn
was-
this.
I must have something wrong.
Validation, it goes,
Because it
And
was
then I
already
searched and then
like,
if
as
nothing
a
was
normal
there, it
program.
turned
That
off.
was like perfect. So that was a perfect whatever from.
And as soon as you change.
Maybe it needs to happen before.
Yeah, but I can't be null. I can't
Make
be
it
null.
null.
I can't be
If
null.
it's not null.
If it's not null. No, some of
I don't know.
them,
Thanks for
you
the
have a
offer.
variable,
But I put it in the right spot, right?
Xbox.
And yours the grid's popping up?
Form and it's a blank.
I mean, the details are popping up right away?
Well, you're switching not to a new form, but to a blank form. That's just-
Yeah.
Yours are?
What are you talking
That
about?
sucks. No offense, I'm glad yours works. I'm trying to figure out why mine doesn't work. I got something subtle going on there that it's not selecting that first grid. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I mean, there's nothing in the box.
oh, I'm thinking like